Outlaw biker gangs conjure images of grizzled rebels riding choppers, defiantly showing their colors. But away from the romanticized pop culture depictions, the reality of life in groups like the Hells Angels and Warlocks is far more grim. For decades, these two motorcycle clubs have been locked in a bitter war spanning both coasts. This is a story of how pride and the law of retaliation have fueled a never-ending cycle of violence between two of the most notorious gangs in America. Will the bloody feud between the Hells Angels and Warlocks ever reach a peaceful end? And what makes these two gangs so dangerous? Keep watching to find out. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is one of the most infamous and controversial gangs in the world. Hells Angels has a long and violent history that has solidified its outlaw biker image. The roots of Hells Angels can be traced back to Fontana and San Bernardino, California in the years following World War II. In 1948, several motorcycle clubs came together to form the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club. The name Hells Angels was believed to have been inspired by historic World War I and two fighting squads. The original founders of Hells Angels were World War II veterans and working-class men who enjoyed riding motorcycles. They were part of the one-percenter biker culture who operated outside of societal norms and laws. Some of the early members included Otto Friedli, a World War II pilot and the first president of the San Bernardino chapter. In the 1950s and 1960s, Hells Angels began expanding rapidly in California. New charters opened up in Oakland, Gardena, and San Francisco. The club gained a reputation for violence, partying, and living an outlaw lifestyle. Members were predominantly white males in their 20s and 30s. To join Hells Angels, prospective members need sponsorship from current members and must go through a lengthy prospecting period. As the club expanded, so did its role in organized crime and turf wars with other gangs. In the 1960s, Hells Angels became heavily involved in the drug trade and methamphetamine production. This led to the conviction of many members on drug trafficking charges. Brutal incidents also erupted between the Hells Angels and rival clubs like the Outlaws, Bandidos and Mongols, and Warlocks. Sonny Barger, who joined the Oakland chapter in 1957, helped expand the club's reach and notoriety. He organized new charters across California and built up an arsenal of weapons to take on rival biker gangs. Barger preached living outside the rules of society and embracing violence when necessary. By the late 1960s, Hells Angels had dozens of charters across the western U.S. and Canada. Chapters were concentrated in California, Arizona, New York, and Quebec. The California Angels established themselves as one of the dominant outlaw motorcycle clubs in the country. In the 1970s and 1980s, the Hells Angels became targets of extensive law enforcement investigations and infiltration attempts. However, attempts to prosecute them were hampered by their code of silence. The Angels' strict hierarchical structure also made it difficult for police to dismantle the organization. Hells Angels continued to expand globally in the following decades. New charters opened in Europe, Australia, South America, and elsewhere. As of 2022, Hells Angels has hundreds of chapters spread across 6 continents and over 40 countries. There are an estimated 2,500 full-patch members worldwide. While denying many criminal allegations, Hells Angels have developed a consistent reputation for violence over the past 70 years. Shootouts, drug trafficking, and murder have all become associated with the Hells Angels name. Their fierce rivalry with clubs like the Outlaws and Warlocks has led to decades of bloodshed. While denying many criminal allegations, Hells Angels have developed a consistent reputation for violence over the past 70 years. Shootouts, drug trafficking, and murder have all become associated with the Hells Angels name. Their fierce rivalry with clubs like the Outlaws and Warlocks has led to decades of bloodshed. Despite numerous prosecutions and negative media, Hells Angels remains a powerful and mysterious tribe bound together by motorcycles, partying, and loyalty to the club. Their outlaw biker image continues to both fascinate and frighten the public. Hells Angels' violent history ensures they are one of the most notorious gangs around the world today. The Warlocks. They are one of the most prominent and dangerous outlaw motorcycle clubs to emerge from the one-percenter biker culture in the 1960s. This all-male biker gang was the first official 1% club founded in Pennsylvania and has been linked to organized crime ever since. The Warlocks Motorcycle Club was established in 1967 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. by a group of male motorcycling enthusiasts. The founding members included ex-military men and other working-class bikers who operated outside the law. Distinguishing themselves from law-abiding motorcycle clubs, the Warlocks openly wore a 1% patch declaring their outlaw status from the beginning. Illicit activity defined the Warlocks straight from their founding in 1967. Centered in Philadelphia, they trafficked narcotics, especially methamphetamine, through an underground network of covert meth labs across eastern Pennsylvania. The Warlocks leveraged violence and intimidation to extort legal businesses, directing profits into bolstering their drug operations. Not hesitating to use force, Warlocks members readily engaged in assault, robbery, and even murder to protect their criminal rackets when deemed necessary. As the Warlocks rapidly expanded their territory throughout Pennsylvania during the wild 1970s biker era, violent conflicts inevitably erupted with rival outlaw biker gangs like the Pagans, Outlaws, Hells Angels, and Breed. The Warlocks fought to seize control of drug-dealing territories from competitors and widen their criminal influence into neighboring regions. The Warlocks fought to seize control of drug-dealing territories from competitors and widen their criminal influence into neighboring regions. Through demonstrating raw power and ruthless bullying tactics, the Warlocks successfully dominated the illicit narcotics scene across the Philadelphia metropolitan area by the 1980s. Bolstered by their dominance in Philadelphia and surrounding counties, the Warlocks also reached into nearby areas like Delaware County, South Jersey, the Lehigh Valley, and other parts of eastern Pennsylvania to peddle meth, cocaine, and other contraband. The South Philadelphia clubhouse, owned by the Warlocks, served the operation well, facilitating drug distribution while providing a place for members to congregate, party, and engage in rampant meth and cocaine use. Not surprisingly, repeated police raids on the clubhouse turned up stockpiles of meth, cocaine, illegal firearms, stolen goods, and hordes of cash. The clubhouse contained the expected biker bar and meeting space for handling club business, while the upstairs hosted rooms where drug-fueled parties raged at all hours. With John Marone serving as club president overseeing operations in the late 1980s, the Warlocks experienced a rapid expansion of their meth trafficking business throughout Pennsylvania and beyond. Under Marine's ruthless leadership, the covert meth labs run by the Warlocks produced millions of dollars worth of products annually. However, Marine's reign ended in 1989 when he was arrested by the DEA with 10 pounds of pure meth in his possession, resulting in a 9-year prison stint. A series of prominent Warlocks leaders continually filled the criminal power vacuum, though most faced eventual prosecution on federal drug trafficking and weapons charges throughout the 1980s and 1990s. For decades, these two motorcycle clubs have battled for territory, respect, and criminal control through brute violence and intimidation. Tensions between the Hells Angels and Warlocks can be traced back to the 1970s, as both clubs expanded rapidly across the United States. The Angels laid claim to controlling California, while the Warlocks dominated Pennsylvania. As each club sought to enlarge its territory and criminal enterprises, violent clashes became inevitable. The first eruption occurred in 1974 when Warlocks members assaulted a Hells Angel in Philadelphia over a territory dispute. Retaliation soon followed. Over the next decade, Angels and Warlocks took shots at each other during confrontations in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. The violence escalated into the 1980s as Warlocks challenged the Hells Angels' dominance along the East Coast. In September 1980, 300 Warlocks members rode into New York in a massive ride-through to intimidate the Hells Angels. More minor skirmishes took place throughout the decade as each club raided the other's turf. The peak of the bloody feud arrived in the summer of 1988. In an act of retaliation for Warlocks members attacking Angels at a bar, the Hells Angels in Pennsylvania kidnapped and viciously beat Warlocks leader Craig Gudknecht. When the police got repot about the brutal assault and kidnapping, 4 Hells Angels members were arrested and sent to prison. However, the retaliation continued. Just weeks after the high-profile kidnapping, Warlocks launched another ride through New York to call out the Hells Angels. They were met by a hail of bullets from the Angels, sending them fleeing for their lives. Over the next decade, the violent attacks between the clubs included firebombings of clubhouses, stabbings, shootings, and other brutal acts. Innocent bystanders were sometimes caught in the crossfire during the outbursts between these bitter rivals. In 1994, the Warlocks and Hells Angels fight turned deadly in Philadelphia. Warlocks associate Paul Castellano was gunned down by members of the Hells Angels Nomads chapter at the Airport Motor Inn. The execution-style killing was in retaliation for ongoing clashes between the Pennsylvania rivals. The violence peaked again in the early 2000s as Angels and Warlocks waged war both in the streets and behind bars. In 2001 alone, 2 Warlocks members were killed in attacks linked to the feud. A stabbing attack by Hells Angels on Warlocks at a New Jersey motorcycle show led to attempted murder indictments in 2003. After an Angel opened fire on 3 Warlocks, he was shot dead in retaliation. Even in prison, high-ranking members of both clubs have tried to kill each other on sight. In Rhode Island's maximum security prison, 2 incarcerated leaders nearly beat each other to death in the yard during a recreation period. The bitter rivalry shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. As recently as 2015, members of the Warlocks and Hells Angels exchanged gunfire at a Pennsylvania campground, leaving one man paralyzed. Several others were shot, but survived their wounds. In December 2021, Warlocks Motorcycle Club leader David Dresser Jaquila was shot and killed outside the Warlocks clubhouse in Philadelphia. A longtime member, Jaquila had previously survived a shooting linked to his leadership role in 2009. Authorities suspect the Hells Angels were behind the recent deadly attack on the Warlocks leader. After 50 years of bad blood, the violent feud between the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club and Warlocks Motorcycle Club continues unabated. Their hatred for one another runs deep after so much bloodshed over the decades. Any slight or territorial transgression is met with swift retaliation from either side. Law enforcement officials in California, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York keep close tabs on both clubs, hoping to prevent outbreaks of violence. But the secretive nature of these outlaw bikers makes it difficult to stop the brutal clashes before they turn deadly. For the Hells Angels and Warlocks, the battle for biker dominance and control of criminal activities shows no signs of resolution. Their bitter rivalry will likely continue to claim lives and leave a trail of violence for years to come.